Serious. Which celebrity has done horrible things but it's swept under the rug? Attention! Serious. Tag notice asterisk. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted. https://www.reddit.com/r/wiki/index-wiki_rule_6-closing parenthesis in **comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules, posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA rec. UEST instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message compose to =r @Reddit if you have any questions or concerns. To quote the Beasties, the new style. If I played guitar, I'd be Jimmy Page. The girlies I like are underage. Shish. Check it. Page had a 14-year-old girlfriend stay with him at Peaksep, and by all accounts, Peter Grant, their manager, was an even bigger piece of shit. Terrence Howard. Usually people think he's just a bit crazy because of his weird version of math. But the more alarming thing about him is that he's a serial domestic abuser. Which is why he got cut from Marvel. No, he didn't get screwed over. I'm so glad they replaced him with Don Cheadle. I hope there's nothing secretly awful about him too. He has a hideous accent in 3 of his movies which has tortured the ears of millions of people. The Ocean's movies are on steady rotation at my house. I've become immune to it. He was one of the very few Marvel guys that stood up for Brie Larson when fans came after her for saying there should be more diversity amongst film critics. Whoopi defends him too. She doesn't have a good track record. She defended Roman Polanski, Mel Gibson, and others too. Whoopi is another answer to this post. She defends the absolute worst people. She is insane. Deleted. Wait, what? Really? I've never heard this. This is brand new information for me as well, and I wish I didn't know it. Like, new facts have come to light. That's fucking interesting. Man, that's fucking interesting. Literally the only thing I know about him. So that's what the whole 1 thing was about. Bro is legit nuts, but always seemed so normal in the movies. I kind of feel like that's an actor's job though. Because acting. We used to go to the same gym and many a time ended up on treadmills next to each other. He was normal in that guy you see at the gym who you say hi to kind of way. Teriology. Also what he did to Oprah during filming of The Butler. What happened? His weird version of what now? 1 × 1 = 2. Literally this equation. Teriology. Dumber than Scientology. I'm so confused. Mostly about the math part. What are you talking about? Here's his logical proof that 1 × 1 = 2. Greater than... How could it equal 1? He said. If 1 × 1 = 1, that means that 2 is of no value because 1 times itself has no effect. 1 × 1 = 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So what's the square root of 2? Should be 1, but we're told it's 2, and that cannot be. Deleted. I am pretty sure root 2 is approximately 1.414. I see where you're going, but there is definitely a square root of 2. As a math teacher, this just makes me sad because no one bothered to teach him what the point of multiplying is. Greater than... How can it equal 1? He said. If 1 × 1 = 1, that means that 2 is of no value because 1 times itself has no effect. This part starts off with some nonsensical shit. The value of 2 doesn't diminish just because multiplying 1 by itself equals 1. It's basic fucking arithmetic. Multiplying a number by 1 doesn't change its value. It's called the multiplicative identity, not a yard sale on the value of numbers. Greater than 1 × 1 = 2 because the square root of foo r is 2. So what's the square root of 2? Should be 1, but we're told it's 2, and that cannot be. And here, it's just a jumble of mathematical errors trying to dance together. The square root of 4 being 2 has fuck all to do with 1 × 1. And the square root of 2 definitely isn't 1. It's about 1.414. This isn't up for debate, it's just how numbers fucking work. This proof isn't just wrong. It's a classic example of using mathematical terms to sound deep when it's actually deep in bullshit. Did this confusion come from not understanding basic math? Or was there something else that twisted up the logic here? OMG, I was going to comment him and I didn't think anyone else would, and then he's the first comment. I meet him twice in LA at events, and both times he was super creepy and entitled. I met a good amount of celebrities, In this one job I had, and most are shy, normal people. A few are super nice and animated, but like over the top and a bit much. But then there are a few like the who you can tell use their fame to get away with shit openly that most people couldn't. Also, Reese Witherspoon is a knight M.R. Go on. I have always had a dislike for Terrence Howard, especially in the movie Crash. Funny because I was literally watching the first Iron Man today with him in it. Tears of joy. What's this about Terrence Howard math? This is one of those where every comment makes me go, huh, thinking face. I feel like I live under a rock. How do I not know or never heard any of this before? Baffling. What? Saw that coming. Wasn't too comfy with that rap movie he made. Seems like a documentary. His alternative science theories are bad enough. I wasn't even aware of the DV shit. Same with Dr. Dre. I forgot about Dre. Wyclef Jean and his fake charities. Didn't he date Lauryn Hill when she was 14? They're just friends. Everyone knows you don't date them until their 18th birthday. Wait, when did we switch to talking about Drake? Also Dane Cook. Unless you're R. Kelly. So many creeps, just friends, with teen girls conveniently right up until they become legal. One time. Damn. Used to be the sweetest girl, sad face. Musical note, I'll be gone till November. Musical note, yo. Tell my girl I'll be gone till November. Musical note, you know what? Say what you want about Wyclef. He may have stolen money from his own people, but that man can write a goddamn song. I only know of him because he was on Hips Don't Lie. He was also part of the Fugees. Lauryn Hill was in the group, right? Yeah, he was very overshadowed by her, because she's hugely more talented. Gene is basically that other guy from the Sugar Cubes. The guy you hear talking over the very talented woman. The Carnival was a huge record at the time. Some say Shakira sounds like a goat. You need to listen to Wyclef on the 2010 We Are the World. Some newspapers said he sounded like he had a hernia. His stuff on the Carnival is pretty good, but nowhere near as good as her. My friend had a cat named Bagheera, and I would always yell her name in the same voice, Wyclef says Shakira. Wrote Dance Like This. Brett Favre is in the same class. All athletes do this. It's a way to get around paying massive amounts of taxes. My client is a sports agent, and I've heard some wild stuff. Fucking Wyclef Jean smoking blunts on 108th with my fucking money. Joey Diaz. Wasn't Wyclef just accused of being a Chinese spy? He's so useless. Ruins everything he sings. I've got Massive Attack and Yusu Endure songs on my playlist I skip over because of his collaboration. One of the worst. CeeLo Green's lawyer said he couldn't be guilty of rape because the woman was passed out, so she couldn't say no. He is still out walking around, even turns up on award shows and shit. Holy shit, Yike's lawyer doesn't know what rape is. I can't believe that. Not exactly swept under the rug, but I can't believe Chris Brown still has a career. I think a lot of people must not have read the full police report of what happened and maybe don't realize how bad that shit actually was. It was brutal. I don't get how he still has a career either. He straight up tried to kill her. Lots of people have, and still side with him because they believe Rihanna hit him first. The argument goes, well, you threw hands first. You deserve what comes to you. How are you going to hold someone responsible for what they did as a teenager, as if his abusive behavior ever stopped? It's insane. Nobody read the police report, but everyone saw the leaked photos of Rihanna's face. That should have been enough. I think you're overestimating the literacy of his fans. The photos are truly horrifying, and most people haven't seen them. I say this all the time, anytime I see he has any relevance today. What woman would support him after what happened to Rihanna? Unless he got serious help, which I doubt. A surprising amount. What people don't understand is Rihanna was but one of many violent outbursts he had, and so many are after that news broke. A verbal argument ensued, and Chris Brown pulled the vehicle over on an unknown street, reached over Robin F. with his right hand, opened the car door, and attempted to force her out. Brown was unable to force Robin F. out of the vehicle because she was wearing a seatbelt. When he could not force her to exit, he took his right hand and shoved her head against the passenger window of the vehicle, causing an approximate 1-inch raised circular contusion. Robin F. turned to face Brown and he punched her in the left eye with his right hand. He then drove away in the vehicle and continued to punch her in the face with his right hand while steering the vehicle with his left hand. The assault caused Robin F.'s mouth to fill with blood and blood to splatter all over her clothing and the interior of the vehicle. Brown looked at Robin F. and stated, "I'm going to beat the shit out of you when we get home." "You wait and see," the detective said. Robin F. then used her cell phone to call her perso. Null assistant Jennifer Rosales, who did not answer. Robin F. pretended to talk to her and stated, "I'm on my way home." Make sure the police are there when I get there. After Robin F. faked the call, Brown looked at her and stated, "You just did the stupidest thing ever. Now I'm really going to kill you." Brown resumed punching Robin F. and she interlocked her fingers behind her head and brought her elbows forward to protect her face. She then bent over at the waist, placing her elbows in FACE near her lap in an attempt to protect her face and head from the barrage of punches being levied upon her by Brown. Brown continued to punch Robin F. on her left arm and hand, causing her to suffer a contusion on her left triceps. Sick. That was approximately 2 inches in diameter and numerous contusions on her left hand. Robin F. then attempted to send a text message to her other personal assistant, Melissa Ford. Brown snatched the cellular telephone out of her hand and threw it out of the window onto an unknown street. Brown continued driving and Robin F. observed his cellular telephone sitting in his lap. She picked up the cellular telephone with her left hand, and before she could make a call, he placed her in a headlock with his right hand and continued to drive the vehicle with his left hand. Brown pulled Robin F. close to him and bit her on her left ear. She was able to feel the vehicle swerving from right to left as Brown sped away. He stopped the vehicle in front of 33 North June Street and Robin F. turned off the car, removed the key from the ignition and sat on it. Brown did not know what she did with the key and began punching her in the face and arms. He then placed her in a headlock, positioning the front of her throat between his bicep and forearm. Brown began applying pressure to Robin F.'s left and right carotid arteries, causing her to be unable to breathe, and she began to lose consciousness. She reached up with her left hand and began attempting to gouge his eyes in an attempt to free herself. Brown bit her left ring and middle fingers and then released her. While Brown continued to punch her, she turned around and placed her back against the passenger door. She brought her knees to her chest, placed her feet against Brown's body and began pushing him away. Brown continued to punch her on the legs and feet, causing several contusions. Robin F. began screaming for help and Brown exited the vehicle and walked away. A resident in the neighborhood heard Robin F.'s plea for help and called 911, causing a police response. An investigation was conducted and Robin F. was issued a domestic violence emergency protective order. He probably would have killed her given the chance, since domestic violence that ends in femicide is generally prefaced by a case of non-fatal strangulation, as is the case of Chris Brown's abuse of Rihanna. Femicide is one of the most predictable types of murder. It also annoys me to no end how people state that it was ages ago and he should get to move on. The man never stopped having violent outbursts against women. I could somewhat get it if it was an isolated incident, but it wasn't. It's a continuous pattern. I've been talking about this for months since I finally read the police report. He absolutely would have killed her, and it was vicious how she was attacked. Anyone who chooses to still pour into his pocket is gross. I've seen women say, "He can beat me too." Multiple. Being a celebrity is immunity. People talk a lot about Anthony Kiedis' biography admission to banging minors, but I definitely remember flipping through Keith Richards' biography and mentioning the same thing. And IRC meeting her parents in their house. And never heard it mentioned somehow. Listen, if you adopt them or become their guardian, it's totally legal. Is Ted Nugent. Steven Tyler of Aerosmith married a 14-year-old so he could take her on tour and fuck her. I don't think he married her. OL Stoneface Bill Wyman getting it on with a 15-year-old Mandy Smith and then his son marrying Mandy Smith's mom. The Wyman family tree has an X in it. Statutory rape is almost as prevalent in rock as intravenous drug use. Jack Nicholson beat a prostitute so severely it caused her lifelong brain damage. Then he beat another prostitute so severely he ruptured one of her breast implants. https://www.theguardian.com/film/2000/May/15/news1. I really only started seeing this recently. I'm kind of surprised it laid low for so long. 'Cause a star of that magnitude doing something like that is a big deal. It happened back when attitudes were very different. I don't think younger people realize just how much changed between 1960 and now. Even the difference between the 90s and now is huge when you look at attitudes and understanding of things like consent, boundaries, sex work, etc. Also, no cell phones and no social media. Way less likely to be exposed by a video or have someone drunk tweet in the middle of the night all your dirty business. Yes, maybe this wasn't a well-known scandal because sex workers were marginalized. Were even more marginalized. Just take a look at the movies from back then. Porky's, Revenge of the Nerds. None of that would fly in today's world. Sex Pistols' scandalous interview in 1976 is a good example. The host in his 40s was suggesting a meeting with teenage girl on live TV. And one of the band boys said something like, "You creepy old fucker." Scandal was about the latter, not the former. I mean, the above article from 2000 has a hint of it. Him beating a woman so hard it ruptured her implants is chiefly described as how odd it is, rather than how horrifying or violent. The oddest of which saw Nicholson accused, in 1996, of rupturing a woman's breast implants. Right? And often, even in the 90s, victims were often told, "It's your word against his. Without proof, you'll never win anything." The older-than-me women around me at the time I was a teen in the 90s often said things like, "Well, she went home with him. What did she think would happen?" Or, "If you dress like that, you'll get the wrong attention." Some was solid TBF, like, "Always tell someone where you're going and with who. And always make sure you and your friends got home safely." Or, "Yes, tick together if you're out and make sure to know where your drinks came from." It was to protect us, but disgusting that all the responsibility for avoiding abuse and rape was on the women out and about. Now, people will hear a victim out and then find evidence to either prove or disprove the story. It's come a very long way. I'm glad it has, and that perpetrators of these awful things are being held accountable. Let's hope it just gets better. My mom once told me, "Never be alone with a man you aren't willing to fuck." Would have been the late 80s. Worst part is, even though I've ignored it lots and have plenty of male friends, it's still legit advice in its way. It's got to hard to get an Uber driver, though. Advice from the days before Uber and ubiquitous cameras and location history. If I was going to reframe for today's world, I'd say don't go off alone to isolated places with guys you don't know well, and don't assume that because you've been casually acquainted with someone for a while that you know them. Also, their car going from A to B counts as an isolated place. Especially if you're drunk or tired. Do you really live your life afraid you're going to be raped by acquaintances? No. I live my life aware that some people are really awful and that it's wisest if I minimize their opportunities to be awful to me. Do you live your life afraid someone will come in and rob you? I bet you lock your doors, though. I'm not afraid my acquaintances will rape me, because they're not getting a chance to. Relax. I just think it's wild that your mother gives you that kind of advice and now you're giving advice regarding being drunk in a stranger's car. I do not live my life in fear that I will be robbed. At all. Not even close. Do you really think the lock on your door is going to stop a determined individual from entering your home? Locks on a window? Please. I saw in a study that out of 22,000 women, when the word rape wasn't used, 90% had experienced unwanted sex or sex acts. Sexual abuse of women is so normalized they don't even recognize it, and 51% of women have been sexually assaulted by a partner while asleep. Police in England and Wales have recorded the highest number of rapes and sexual offenses in 20 years. Forces recorded 194,683 sexual offenses in 2021-22, including 70,330 rapes, the highest number since records began in 2002-03. Just 5.7%
of incidents end in arrest. 0.7% result in a felony conviction and 0.6% result in incarceration. https www. Washington Post.com Business, 6 October 2018. Less than % rapes led felony convictions least pay. Are-sent victims face emotional physical consequences. https://www.lbc.co.uk/news/have-of-women-have-asleep/#. Text equals they %20 surveyed %20 more %20 than %2022 2C000 happened %20 to %20 them %20 multiple %20 times. https www.bbc.com/news/uk-6
2,258,162. I've had so many unwanted sexual encounters in my life that I literally can't count them all. Education on me having a right to my own body would have made my life so much different. We are going so backwards, and it's going to be the same way that it was when I grew up in a few years if we don't stop it, and stop it now. Women are not going to be believed at all for anything that happens to them if we don't do something soon. It terrifies me entire life has been affected by the horrific Abu said that I have withstood at the hands of men, and also the horrific abuse that I withstood at the hands of the women who would not believe me. I've had similar experiences as well, faced with cold sweat. In 2016, I wrote an article titled, "Was it rape?" and spoke about an incident where I was younger, and my boyfriend had invited me over. I'd explicitly gone into detail about how I was a virgin. He already knew this, and that I really didn't want to do anything other than kissing. He was a very good Christian boy, who would never dream of forcing boundaries. Don't be silly. You're just young. Of course I wouldn't push your boundaries. While we were kissing, before I even had a chance to say, "Oh," or do anything, he slipped his fingers inside my underwear, inside of me. I was so shocked, I pulled back, and I must have had a panicked look on my face, because he responded, "Don't worry, I'll keep my promise. We won't have sex." I was much younger than him, recently 17 to his 22. And all I could think was that I'd explained over and over and over that I wasn't ready, needed time. But he didn't react as if he did anything wrong. His reaction was as if I had done something wrong. And so I didn't stop him any further, because all I could think is, am I really so behind that I don't even realize this is just what everyone does? He hurt me badly enough that I wouldn't stop bleeding for weeks, and had to make a doctor's appointment, where they noted significant tearing high up in my vaginal wall. With time, I realized how very wrong that situation was, and was particularly focused on, was it rape? I hadn't said no, but I had earlier. I hadn't wanted it, but he made me feel, in multiple ways, that I couldn't say no. He made me feel stupid whenever I did raise any objections and concerns. And believe me, there were many. I'm just shortening it as much as possible because it's already too long. In 2016, when I wrote that article, with a lot more detail, not only did the majority of comments blame me, not only did the majority of the comments say that I was trying to destroy some poor young man's life, but one of the comments actually asked me, "What were you CTing? You went over to his house. Were you expecting popcorn and pillow fights?" And that's not taking it even a step further. Last year, Lyndon Montgomery was found not guilty despite the fact he A. confessed to raping his victim in a text message sent to her. B. The victim in question had video and photographic evidence of the blood from her rape. And C. That he broke into her home to rape her, but because she was drinking and she was friendly to him earlier in the day while they were the group of friends. So she was probably just upset and probably wanted to cover up cheating with her boyfriend, and her memory was faulty. And he said he was sorry. Nor is it looking at Nicola Stoker, who you can read about in How Many More Women, who was sued by her ex because he strangled her and went to prison for it. And she warned his next girlfriend that he'd strangled her, gone to prison for it, broke his restraining order immediately after being released from prison, because what judges said, he wasn't trying to strangle her, he was trying to shut her up. TLDR, nothing's changed. I wrote an article titled, "Was it rape?" and received comments like, "What did you expect when you went over to his house? Popcorn and pillow fights?" Last year, Lyndon Montgomery was acquitted of raping a woman despite video and photographic evidence, his breaking and entering of the victim's home, and his written confession. Nicola Stoker, one of dozens of women with similar stories, you can read about in How Many More Women, was sued by her ex because he strangled her and went to prison for it, and she warned his next girlfriend that he'd strangled her, gone to prison for it, broke his restraining order immediately after being released from prison, because two judges said he wasn't trying to strangle her, he was trying to shut her up. I'm so sorry this happened to you. It was sexual assault, and it doesn't matter if you went to his house. When you told him that you weren't ready for that kind of relationship, that should have been the end of it until you mutually decided to move forward with things. I had a situation with an ex where we were having relationship problems and had an argument over the phone. He said he was coming over to my house. I told him not to come over because I didn't want to see him. He got off the phone with me and drove to my house. I shouldn't have let him in, but I did. He came in and was acting really hostile. He told me to come into the bedroom and I said no. I didn't want to have sex. He made it clear he wasn't leaving until I did, and so I had sex with him. Afterward, he didn't say anything to me and just got up and left the house immediately. It took me a long time to realize that what he had done was wrong. I had told him no. I didn't want him to come over, And once at my house, Ad told him I did not want to have sex, but he pressured me to do that anyway. Obviously, I blamed myself for allowing him to even come into the house in the first place, but I guess I had rationalized it by thinking that we could talk things through. But that isn't what happened at all. Those gray areas happen more often than people want to admit, I think. It's unfortunate that people can tell their stories like these and get comments that are critical for going over to the guy's house instead of criticizing his behavior. OMG. Hugs. That's horrific. And no means no, which you declined. Anita Hill had entered the chat. Seriously, the majority of men in power in the 1980s were sleeping with underage girls. This was just common knowledge. Raping. It's rape. Yeah. The 80s were fucked up. And the 90s. And the aughts. Yeah, it's just crazy how even as someone who has been a fan of his for years, I only heard about this a couple of months ago. If this happened today with a star of similar fame, it would be asterisk everywhere. Even in like 2008, I was watching old seasons of Top Chef and there were so many inappropriate comments sexualizing women in multiple episodes. Nick, serious question, were prostitutes fair game for beatings in the 60s? I mean, I know lots of things have changed, but I'm honestly horrified reading this about Jack Nicholson. They were likely to be arrested for being sex workers if they came to the attention of the police due to being beaten by a client. It was simpler times, a common excuse for astonishingly awful behavior in the past. They were simple because of the lead poisoning from leaded gasoline. Exactly. Good old American leaded gasoline, bringing us to our good old American asbestos-lined homes and offices. According to the linked article, both incidents happened in 1996. Yep, when the people in charge were all born around or prior to the 60s. Greater than I don't think younger people realize just how much changed between 1960 and now. That's a 64-year time difference. Less than a lifetime. I thought, real men don't hit women, was an old-fashioned value, but okay, go and excuse the MF. I don't know if you're trying to troll or just not very good at reading, but either way, I suggest you delete that before anyone else notices you ignoring that I was answering a question about how it wasn't a scandal. It's not a good look to attack from a position of incomprehension. Are you not able to counter my point with a reasonable discussion? That's okay. Try not to deflect so hard next time. Yeah, you're a troll. I'm a report and block you now. Kate Bye. Odd, but you do you. Suddenly his shining performance looks different. Remove. Go crazy. Don't mind if I do. He's always played creeps. Wasn't a stretch, it turns out. He's also tight with Roman Polanski. Close enough that Polanski felt comfortable drugging and raping a 13-year-old in Nicholson's hot tub. It's crazy how many actors and actresses were friends with Polanski. Meryl Streep and Harrison Ford are two big names that supported him, but there were a bunch of very popular celebs that either signed the Polanski petition or supported him in other ways. Pretty fucking gross. I'm surprised about the movie Carnage too. Kate Winslet, Christoph Waltz, Jodie Foster, and John C. Reilly agreed to work with him. Like, you're all filming in France because your director is on the run for raping a minor and can't go to the U.S. law. Those are all great actors and seemingly good people, but this makes me question their judgment. Every time I'm tempted to think Meryl Streep is one of the decent ones. That fucking petition. I've spent all this time hating Jack for letting his homie Roman drug and rape a 13-year-old at his house, and I had no idea there was an even better reason. Birds of a feather flock together. Would not be surprised if Jack has done similar things. Also, the death of that one actress on the yacht with Christopher Walken. The guy who played number 2 in Austin Powers and Nickelodeon were on that yacht when she drowned Elle. Hollywood is a cesspool. Natalie Wood with husband Robert Wagner. No 2. I think enabling the drug and rape of a 13-year-old still takes it. He wasn't actually at the house, but he did keep being friends with Polanski afterwards, and as far as I know, never condemned his actions. I do think it makes him a completely irredeemable piece of shit, but the amount of personal involvement and responsibility involved in the prostitute cases pushes them over the edge for me. I was absolutely appalled by this at first, as such an act is disgusting. But after doing some research, I'm completely unable to find any credible sources that present the whole case. Can anyone find a source which covers the entire lawsuit? We need the whole story in order to get to the bottom of this. That's what throws me off, because Jack is one of my heroes and I keep seeing this story come up, but then when I go to look into it, there's not a whole lot of info about it. He's one of your heroes? The good times, noodle salad monologue really resonated with some people. He made him want to be a better man. The Joker, a hero? Roman Polanski's BFF, a hero? Of all the people who've walked the earth, how the hell is an actor your hero? You're right that hero is a strong word, but I mean, man, you're not crazy for thinking Jack Nicholson is one of the best actors of all time. And as he's portrayed in Hollywood, he seems to be the fucking man. And with this being as flimsy as it is, it's just sort of hard to process for a dude who really likes him. It was a very long time ago and the type of woman people to this day generally discredit. You expect better info? You want me to go off the word of a random Redditor? There was an article posted. It's still nothing but an accusation, and, as I can't find a follow-up, I'm not going to just trust a random prostitute or Jack Nicholson. I just need a bit of proof, that's all. Too many bands and celebs got accused of all sorts during #MeToo, and most of it was baseless crap. A man who has fucked thousands of women gets accused by 2 of them of assault. I feel like if he really was that guy, maybe there would be way more accusations. Like with Bill Cosby, that came out and suddenly dozens of women came forward. Similar with Russell Brand. He was a new one on a telly show that asked thousands of women over a 5-year period that he'd fucked if they'd say he was bad to them. 4 anonymous women is what they got after 5 years. And none of them want to actually prosecute him. So yeah, I'm going with Brand and Jack being innocent until proven otherwise. The article said there are many accusations though. You have no idea how sexual assault and power operate. Yes, if a man's character and career are going to be destroyed, I definitely want better fucking information. More information than her attorney saying, she's going blind. She might even die. Of course he's going to say that. That's the job. So you give his career more weight than her going blind. Wow, I found the article. That is disgusting. I'm especially sad because I really liked a lot of his early work, Jack Nicholson Assaults. https://www.theguardian.com/film/2000/May/15/news1 . By the way, that other actor Mark Wahlberg, he beat up an Asian guy and I think blinded him too. I do not. I would like to hear the outcome of the case. I would like to hear from Nicholson's or court-appointed doctors as to the severity of her injuries. If another client or her pimp injured her after the initial settlement. If she fell down the stairs. If she's lying. All I'm saying is the person who reported the injuries to the media was her attorney. If y'all can't realize that attorneys in cases like this do way more than just embellish the facts, you need to realize it. A lie can get around the world before truth has even got out of bed. If her injuries were sustained during the encounter, I would hope charges would be pressed against Mr. Nicholson. I just never ever believe the opening salvo statement from an attorney in a case like this. Judging by the amount of upvotes, thousands of people have literally changed their minds about this actor based on a 24-year-old article from a case that for all we know might have been dismissed as pure and utter bullshit. You are embellishing a lot based on what you have heard so you can continue to like a guy that played in a few good movies. Yeah, I just read 2 accusations. No proof of anything. And I DGAF about Jack Nicholson, so I'm not supporting him because I have any positive feelings towards him. The settlement hints that he was guilty, but it could be he just didn't want people knowing he had sex with prostitutes. I'm not into trials by media or public opinion. Too many people just assume there is no smoke without fire. Yet there has been tons of fake accusations in the past. Consider me unconvinced. Yeah, a hooker gets $32K and a year later wants more money. No way. The article says the injury got worse. Of course, that's what she said. People now read the lawsuit's inflammatory statement and take it as the gospel. That's what ambulance chasers do for clients. Throw the first statement out and make it seem as horrific as possible. They do that knowing that it will blow up on socials, and many will never read anything else about the case. Yet millions of people's entire opinion will be cement. Ed by the opening salvo. Wow, that's horrible. What a pause. It pisses me off people commit atrocities like this and walk free. Holy shit, swept under the rug indeed. I totally missed this. He lived in Roman Polanski's house above Mulholland Canyon after the director fled. We could see the pool house until the fire. Enjoy his work, but it doesn't take long to figure out dude is both a creep and a loose cannon. Roman Polanski raped a girl at his mansion too. Jack always looked deranged. I'm 65 and have never heard this. I used to read all Great Aunt's National Enquirer and Star magazines. That's wild. I never heard about this. But I always had a feeling he was a fucking psycho in real life. He fat man gonna die soon, too old. FK an asshole. FCK him. You can say fuck here. Okay, fuck him. He's absolutely gross. Looks like the devil himself and his acting sucks. I've never had a good feeling about him. Wouldn't be a bit surprised if he shows up on Epstein and Diddy's lists. It was the same person. This article is from 24 years ago. Is there any update on this? Did they settle, or was there a court ruling? Can't really say he did that, based on an accusation with no other info. Unfortunately, you can't, but people still will. The internet is more of a guilty until proven innocent type of place instead of vice versa. Do you ever ask yourself, is this as good as it gets? I never knew that. One of my friends who has worked with him said that he was unpleasant, aggressively demeaning and dismissive to any women around him that he didn't find physically attractive. Definitely horrible. Pleading face, weary cat grimace, expressionless. He needs anger management. I never knew about this. Makes me hate him now. Method acting for The Shining.